let's move into the changes that are happening in Illinois. Let's move into the changes that are happening in Minnesota.
Only the money, baby.
There's legislation that's happening. It passed in Minnesota. Did it get signed yet?
Not yet. The governor's dicking with it.
You better sign it. I mean, come on.
Well, no. When we get there, I'll tell you what will happen there. It's okay. Even if he doesn't sign it, it's okay. Even if he doesn't sign it, it's okay.
But either way, right now, Uber's with their usual scare tactics. They pulled this crap in California. They pulled this crap in Washington. They pulled this crap wherever they're throwing their little 2-year-old temper tantrum, which is seemingly to get louder and louder. But the problem is, you know what? I think a lot of these legislators have kids. Well, they're usually older, so yeah, they usually have kids. And I think they've dealt with their 2-year-olds, so they know how to deal with temper tantrums when it comes to these kids. So Uber, you can continue screaming and crying and moaning. We know you're not going to leave. We know you're not going to, just abandon, because you're not. We know for sure that's not going to happen. If you did, I'll stand corrected. But for the most part, I can 99.98% guarantee you ain't going anywhere. You're not going to pull up shop. If you had to deal with the legislation in Washington and in Seattle, which has higher rates than what Minneapolis has, then, Minnesota, then yeah, you're going to have some issues. So, but the thing is, you didn't pull out. You're still there. You're still giving rides. There's no issues. There's no problems. Drivers are happy. But you're kicking and screaming like a little 2-year-old, making yourselves look bad. So great. But yeah, we're going to be talking about some of the temper tantrums that Uber and Lyft are necessarily having in some of the.
Chris, mark that question with Barnes Corp, the super chat. We'll get to that answer, but answering that, it's pretty clear.
Okay.
So the second super chat, you see that one? Okay, so this is what's happening in Illinois. This is a quick snapshot of what's going on. Illinois and Minnesota are two different, obviously, bills that are happening. Okay, we'll talk Minnesota next. That's where the show me the money comes into play. This one, is taking away the common carrier exemption that Uber and Lyft had for a decade. They're basically, the legislature is saying, you have to now be considered just like the cabs, just like everything else, that they're playing under a different kind of set of rules. You guys have been playing with your own set of rules, no more. And Uber, of course, said, what'd they say, Chris? Oh, we're going to go. I honestly, one time, Uber, and Lyft, see, we don't give breaks to Lyft either. One time, when you do this, you know who I want to have on? This guy, Josh Gold. He's their a PR person. Every quote, he's in it. Josh Gold. I go, Josh Gold, if you're watching, come on down, talk to me. And they go, we're leaving. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
One time.
Call if it's not a bluff, one time go. Because you know what? How did people function 10 years ago in Chicago without you? They got here A to B somehow, sometime. They did. So to me, throwing the fit and go like, I'm going to go. I'm like, okay, here's the door. Don't let the door hit you on the way out. Okay. So Illinois bill says no more common carrier exemption for you. I'm like, okay. A bill in the state capitol will remove the exemption of drivers of rideshare apps like Uber and Lyft and lump them with carriers such as bus drivers, train conductors, airline pilots, taxi drivers who have vicarious liability. If a bus rider for an unsafe ride sues the driver, okay, the bus company can also be found liable. Are you watching this, Chris? This is the part that they don't like. Because if an Uber driver gets in a crash now people go, before they would go, oh, there's $2,500 deductible and go F yourself because you're on your own. There was no more of that because now the passenger can go after the company. That's what happens when you take the exemption away. Look, am I happy about this? I'm not happy about this. All I'm saying is I'm telling you what the law is, so stop the hate mail. Lyft officials are strongly opposed to the bill. Of course they are. They argue with the current laws in place, only 0.0002% of their riders have registered safety incidents. Yeah, but when you do 2 billion trips a quarter, that's 0.0. See how they play the game? See, 0.002% on 2 billion trips is a lot, buddy. It's
still more than one.
No,
Especially with
forget
so
the
many
one. It's
carjackings and issues there.
thousands.
Oh,
Thousands.
yeah.
So I'm like, okay. All right. So Uber is also against the bill. It's shocking. They argue if the bill becomes law, it may cause them to end services in some parts of the state. Okay, have a nice day.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
impact service for users of the state. Okay. Disguised as a safety bill. Here's Josh Gold. I think this is Josh Gold. Safety bill. This legislation could make rideshare too expensive in many communities. I'm like, okay. It could also, by the way, when this is the other the sentence that I read on every opposition to this all legislation. Rides are going to go up in price. You're going to lose your flexibility and freedom. Okay, I'm giving up my flexibility and freedom. I gave it up a long time ago because I don't think it exists anyway. But this part, Chris, irritates me more than anything else. When they say, "Oh, your fares are going to go up," okay, there was no legislation in 2019, in 2020, in 2021, in 2022. I would like to ask Josh Gold, the PR person, have you raised the rates by 50 to 70% nationwide in order to become a GAAP profitable company on your own without the legislation anyway? Have you? If the answer is yes, which we know it is, then I don't think this should be your point of view, saying that fares are going to be unaffordable. Well, they have becoming unaffordable anyway. So this is legislation that you need to kind of play by. And one of the reasons these entities have been so successful, this is the opposition now, says, have been costs involved that are not as great as the other entities. I agree. Like, cab companies, buses, they have other liability issues. So to me, the state passed it. I mean, the Senate passed it. And then they amended a little bit on the House bill. And this is on its way. This is going to J.B. Pritzker to be signed into law. So we have two of them now on the governor's desk. And Uber goes, wah, 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 we're going to leave. Well, okay. Have a nice day. There you go. Yeah. So my point is, this happened in Illinois because the drivers got together and wanted this change. This happening in Minnesota. It's happening in Washington State. It's happening in Nevada now. It's happening in Connecticut now. New York has it already. So state by state by state, the push is there. You guys, if you're supporting these bills, I am not in Illinois. I'll give you my opinion, but I'm not going to tell you what to do with it. Some drivers may not like this. And I'm not in Minnesota, So I'll give you my opinion. I read the bills. I'm not going to tell you to go call your legislature and push for it or pull it back. All I'm going to tell you is that read the bill, educate yourself. If you're for it, have your voice heard. Call your legislature, call your politicians, put your 2 cents in, email, do whatever you need to do if you're for it. If you're against it, do the other way. Because if you're against it, Uber is helping you anyway by sending you the notification saying, oh, please vote against this or whatever. So I'm like, it's all good.
Yeah, just make sure you do your due diligence and know what it is, because we know how Uber and Lyft will try to take the furthest part of the truth and exploit that just to make it seem like it's so much worse or what they're doing is so much better or whatever it is. I would argue that that's like that close to lying, very close there. So yeah, it's just one of those things that just know what you're looking at, know what you're paying attention to, and just do your due diligence when it comes to it. So then you can say, yeah, I'm for it or I'm against it. But yeah, and then after make your voice heard. Send your legislators exactly what you think, and let them know. All right. So let's move on. We talked about Illinois. Let's talk about another place.
Yeah.
So Minnesota.
Yeah, they passed this bill again is on the governor's desk, Governor Walz's desk. 3 things can happen with this. I'm going to go short and sweet, and I'll give you the numbers in a minute. He can veto it. He's a Democrat, by the way, so we'll see what happens. He can veto it, which will kill the bill. That's already passed by the House and the Senate. He can do nothing, which after a certain period of time, the bill will automatically roll into effect, or he can sign it and make it effective immediately. So those are the 3 possibilities. Now, this bill came with much higher expectations, by the way. It got watered down quite a bit. You guys can see on the second screenshot, on the Twin Cities area. This is literally literally a carbon copy of the Washington State bill. Okay.
Mhm.
You know, came with minimum wage, benefits, and all that stuff. In order to go this far, they watered it down, and they brought it to this level. $1.45 a mile. It started at like $1.85 a mile, and 55 cents a minute. They cut it to 34 cents. This is in the Twin Cities metro area. Just like, you know, Seattle has the highest rates in Washington State, Twin Cities metro has the highest rates within the city. Trips starting within that area is going to have the higher rates, $1.45 and 34. And outside those areas, it's going to be $1.25, and starting outside the metro area, there's also going to be a minimum $5 minimum trip fare as opposed to $3.25 or whatever it is. The other thing is another benefit of this, there is also unjust deactivation protection. So the bill got watered down to just these two, the higher rates and unjust deactivations. They kept it in there. They passed it, and it's on the governor's desk for signature. And if he does sign it, you know, I mean, look, a lot of people are saying, which one of them is in the chat. You know, we were having a little Twitter battle the other day. They say, even Harry said this when he called me the other day. He says, look, you know, when the rates go up, demand will go down. There's no question about that. I question that. I really do. So we will, you know, time will tell. And Norma, oh, well, there you go. Isn't Minnesota the same state that just legalized all drugs? Yes, they did today. By the way, do any of these laws contribute to? No, they don't. You're still an independent contractor. You're not an employee. That's why they don't do SSI. But you got to do your own Social Security, and you got to do all, you know, on retirement as an independent contractor. But they passed this part of the bill, and that's what happened kind of in Washington State anyway. They passed the higher rates first, and then they keep adding, like they added a couple of weeks ago to you know, paid time off and things like that, and healthcare. So it starts somewhere. It has started, and you know. Look, Uber and Lyft complained that the rates of fares are going to go up. Fares have been going up anyway. You know, just the drivers are getting their fair share. I honestly don't think it's going to affect the demand part. I don't think there's going to be a demand crush. Yes, they will have to raise the rates, granted, but it's going to a good place, which is the driver pockets. And if you were doing 100 trips with 60 cents a mile, now you have to do 50 trips with $1.45 a mile. So I don't think too many drivers are complaining. So. Actually, Seattle demand did not go up. Seattle demand is down 6% because of the layoffs, high-tech layoffs. But after the bill went into effect, Seattle demand has not gone down. You can call Uber, which I have, and find out. Seattle demand has not gone down because the rates went up. Yeah, I mean, look, this is a good thing overall. Obviously, if the governor signs, look, Uber and Lyft said both, we're going to leave. I was like, okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Have a nice day. Again, you know, I keep saying have a nice day a lot now because okay, go for it. Yeah. So the drivers, the driver said it feels awesome. It was a long, hard making this bill pass. They watered it down quite a bit, no problem. But the rates are going to be higher going forward. And in a statement, Uber said, Josh Gold, here you go. In a statement, Uber said, for months, we have begged legislatures to work with us on a compromise that raises rates for drivers without hurting riders. Again, you have been raising the rates since 2019 without sharing the wealth. Do not make this an excuse. So, and for months, our pleas were ignored. Yes, because it's not factual. People who know. Unfortunately, what we're left with is a bill rushed through in the final hours, watered down with your, with your lobbyists, by the way, that will leave hundreds of low-income and disabled riders. Look at this. Riders stranded and thousands of drivers without work. Bullshit, I call that. But that's okay.
See, like I said, they go to the furthest point they can. It's still telling some sort of truth. Because yes, rates will rise. Yes, some people may not be able to afford it. But you know, the beautiful thing is there's still public transportation there. There's still buses there. It may not be pretty. It may not be good. You know, I've taken riders who had to go from it was Amherst, New York to Niagara Falls, and it was like a 4-hour bus trip because they have to go into Buffalo. They got to get on the station right there to the bus up there, and it ends up taking like 4 hours. And I'm like, you do that every day? And she's like, yeah, 4 hours there, 4 hours back. So literally a third of your day. This is how her day works. She goes, a third of her day is on the bus, a third of her day is at work, a third of her day is sleeping or very close to it. There's like no time to have fun or enjoy. And it's like, hey, she's doing it. She might not want to, she may have to.
There's a will,
but
there's a
you
way,
got to do
man.
what you got to do.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. And Lyft claims the bill would destroy rideshare for the majority of Minnesotans. Okay. And would more than double ride fares. Well, let me tell you something. Lyft and Uber, I think all these will play themselves out and then both Uber and Lyft said the urging Governor Tim Walz to veto the bill. All right. Well, if he does veto the bill, I mean, the bill's gone. So, next week we'll be talking to you about this. But I think they are playing the same game so much now. The Red Robin Riding Hood, like nobody freaking believes it because they're always yelling fire, fire, fire.
Yeah,
Well,
it's like the boy who cried wolf.
Cry wolf, whatever. And then you also, they look, if you keep yelling fire this much, Uber and Lyft, when there's an actual fire, nobody's going to believe you. So stop yelling fire, bro. Norma, there we go.
I don't believe him. Talk is cheap. Action's where it's at. It's like when you say, oh, something happened, and then it's like, well, pics or it didn't happen. I tell my wife that all the time. I'm like, pics or it didn't happen. I think she said she was at work and, a couple of Buffalo Bills players walked in and I'm like, pics or it didn't happen. She's like, what is that supposed to mean? It's the same thing here. Put your money or put your action where your mouth is, Uber. You want to leave? I'd love to see it. I'd love to see you do it.
Yeah.
Because then I'll be like, oh, wow, they were actually telling the truth. But either way,
not small cities, by the way. They're not going to leave. Chicago is about 8% of their revenue, man. This is not going to happen.
Oh, it's huge, yeah.
We had Walt on from Seattle like a month ago, right? He said something that resonated with me, and it still does, just like in Minnesota now, is that he says, yeah, Uber was complaining the fares are going to go up, right? But they passed it to the passenger, and now they're taking 50% of a bigger number anyway. So just like in Seattle, they complain, but now they're taking 50% of a bigger pie. So to me, it's like, I don't know why they keep complaining. You're taking your 50% of a trip that was 10, now you're taking 50% of a trip that's 15. You're still making more money too, because you're directly going to pass this to the passenger. You're never gonna pay it out of your pocket. I mean, don't be silly, Uber. Come on now. So
it's just that they can't continually go down. So they can't just boil that frog in warm water up to boiling point. They gotta keep it at this cap, and that's that minimum. And again, it's like they're throwing little temper tantrums. They don't want to do it. And then on the flip side, they're like, oh, we championed Prop 22, and we worked with the legislators in Seattle. And it's like, well, then why are you crying like little babies when it comes to Illinois and Minnesota and all these other places that are trying to enact legislation or make changes? You're crying like little babies, and that's all I can say. It's like, oh, little baby, you want me to give you a rattle for you, little baby? That's what it comes down to. And like at this point, I just kind of ignore them.
This went to
this went to somebody in Minnesota.
This went to Illinois, because guess what? The 2024 Democratic National Convention is going to be held in Chicago, right? Uber is playing that game. They go like, hey, man, look, there may not be enough cars for all the people that show up for the Democratic National Committee, but you're not Democratic governor, and you need to not do this. You need to not sign this bill. Like literally veiled threats and the backhanded threats. Like he goes, but earlier this month, Josh Gold, here's my favorite Uber guy. Josh Gold, Uber Senior Director of Policy and Communications, wrote a letter to Jamie Harrison, the chair of the Democratic National Committee, warning that such a law would affect 2024 Democratic National Convention. Bullshit.
Oh, that's like so sleazy in my opinion.
That's so sleazy. That's like, you do me a favor, buddy. Because there may not be enough cars in Chicago to drive you people around. Scheduled to be out next year in Chicago. But before then, they pushed this one on the left in the app, and I tweeted this, and it got I think 1,800 views. Okay, not that it's a big deal. But it's now they're threatening you
Yeah.
I saw this. I mean, my tagline was desperate times call for desperate measures, because this was right at the end. Initially, they were sending drivers, oh, go against this bill. Your flexibility is going to be gone. Your freedom is going to be gone. Oh, fares are going to go up to the driver app. You know, how they push the driver app and the passenger app at the same time. You know, this one was the last one in the driver app that showed up. It goes, you're at risk of becoming an employee. No. No, there's no such thing. There's nothing that says that in the now. If the Department of Labor comes down with the hammer on you guys, yes, that's a different question. But not in Illinois. You're not becoming an employee, sir. That's wrong. It's a lie. Look at this. The Minnesota Senate is about to pass a bill that could make drivers like you employees and put you out of work. No, that is not happening. No.
No,
so because when being an employee is such a bad thing, Uber?
You know what's funny? You know what's crazy about this is if you're giving me if you're going to make me an employee, well, now you have to pay for all the mileage on the car. You have to pay for the car maintenance. You have to pay for you got to pay my hourly fee. You got to pay me, pay time off. You got to give me vacation time. You got to give me benefits. You got to give me all these things. So are you really going to come up with me becoming an employee as part of your ploy? Or are you just going to bite it up? And
since when is such a horrible idea to become an employee?
I don't know. I'd rather not be an employee, but that's the thing.
I get that.
This is the bull that they are putting out there. And what's going on? So for those, because Sergio just went right into it and didn't talk about the context of this. So the screenshot that you're seeing where it says you're at risk of becoming an employee, and then it's saying the Minnesota Senate's about to pass a bill that can make drivers employees, put you out of work, double the cost of rideshare across the state, leading to a huge reduction in trip requests, resulting in thousands, blah, 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 blah. A bunch of bullshit. And then it says, voice your opposition here. This is what you would be greeted with anytime you opened up the Uber app. So if you opened up the Uber app to go online, this is what would pop up. And they make it where it was almost to the point where you couldn't opt out of doing it. If you wanted to go online, you would have had to voice your opposition. It was that close to what it looked like. Luckily, if you pay attention and look, you can see a little X at the corner. You get exit out. But I wouldn't be surprised if they did something that says you can't go online unless you voice your opposition here.
That would be illegal.
Yeah. So if that's the case, get hold of us because we want to know. But it's very, very close to that. It's very close. Like they're making it very, very close to being that borderline.
The reason Josh Gold sent this to all Uber drivers in Minnesota is because in the Minnesota bill, there's no such thing, by the way. It says you're going to be employed. It doesn't say anything like that whatsoever. But see, Uber did not like the Minnesota deal. Okay, you know why they settled in Seattle and gave them all those high rates and all those benefits? Because the Seattle drivers, said, okay, you give us all this, we'll give you that we stay independent contractors. That's that's written in law, right?
Mm-hmm.
This one in Minnesota did not give Uber and Lyft that. They left a little window open for collective bargaining rights. Okay, that's why the Uber is saying this, by the way. I read the whole thing. And that's why they're threatening you of potentially, possibly down the line, maybe a few decades from now, you may become an employee, but they're doing this. Because the Minnesota, MALDA, it's called MALDA, Minnesota United Something Drivers Association, they said, no, we're not going to give you what they gave you in Washington State. We're not going to give you the automatic, we want to stay independent contractors, let's sign the deal, right? That's why Uber is so opposing this vehemently. They're saying that, we're giving you the high rates, we're giving you anti-deactivation rights, but you're not giving us staying independent stuff, right? So they're afraid that down the line, maybe, the union will come back and say, oh, no, we want to unionize. And then that's what they're fighting for, by the way. That's the whole thing about, don't become an employee. Such a horrible idea.
All right, thanks for watching. That short little clip was from our live stream, Show Me the Money Club with Sergio and myself, Tuesdays, 6 p.m. Eastern, 3 p.m. Pacific. Make sure you subscribe, turn on all notifications so you'll be notified when we go live, as well as all of our awesome content. Make sure to check out this video right here, which will take you to the entire live stream, or check out this video right there. All right, drive smart, everyone.